Welcome to the Hop Edition podcast, brought to you in association with the Malt Miller, your go-to choice for premium homebrewing ingredients and equipment. Whether you're a beginner starting out or an experienced brewer, the Malt Miller has got you covered. So for top quality products and customer service, jump over to themaltmiller.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our Patreons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/the Hop Edition. Now it's time to get this pod started, so crack open a homebrew and enjoy the episode.
And good evening, brewers, beer nerds, and people over the internet. Welcome to episode 112 of the Hop Edition podcast. This evening, we're going to be enjoying a lovely warm evening with our good friend of the podcast, Ron Muir. Ron is an avid homebrewer north of the wall, dabbling in semi-pro beer production. We're going to be chatting about homebrew. We're going to be tasting some of Ron's beautiful beers. But before we get into that main affair, we'd like to say a big thanks to our partner sponsor, the Malt Miller, the premier supplier of all things homebrew. Swing by their website, check out their great range of stock. While you're there, check out their Hop Edition recipe section, where you'll find a range of beers from the podcast, including creations from previous podcast guests and some of our own creations. Hope everyone's doing well. Ron, do you want to say hi and just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, hi.
Hi.
Well, everybody knows my name is Ron. I think I've been brewing for, I was trying to remember, maybe 16 years. I can't quite remember, something like that. I live north of the Wall on the east coast of Scotland, near St Andrews. For people that don't really know Scotland, I usually say that because most people have seen the golf and TV at some point coming from St Andrews. I live on a small hold with my wife, 2 teenage boys, 2 black labs, a cat, 7 hens just now, and 5 beehives.
Nice.
And as well as brewing, I try to play the guitar badly and try to be a bit of a hack luthier as well, refurbing old guitars and stuff like that.
Very cool. Very
Awesome.
cool. I had no idea you were into a little bit of Luthering. I've dabbled in that dark art as well in the past, Ron. You
Does that make you a Lutheran or a Lutheran or
Oh,
Lutheran?
who knows?
Sorry, guys, what's Lutheran?
Guitar building.
Buggering about with guitars, yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, I thought it was
yeah.
to do with the beekeeping or something like that.
Yeah,
It's,
no.
You haven't lived until you've polished a fretboard, to be honest. It's quite the art. It's quite the art. Ron, thanks very much for sending us this beautiful range of beers. We've got 3 beers to drink tonight,
Have you opened the
courtesy of
first one?
Ron. The first up is a Mexican lager, and Ron's going to tell us all about that. We've also got a hazy IPA and, interestingly, a coffee stout. Which I haven't had a coffee stout for ages, so I'm looking forward to that. So, I guess we just wanted to talk a little bit about the beers that you've sent us, but the fact that these aren't typically the type of beers you usually brew, Ron. So what are your kind of go-to styles?
Yeah, so just before I get into that, I thought, what's the fun in doing a live podcast drinking beers that I've brewed 1,000 times? And so
Crafted.
these 2 of these beers, as literally I've not done the rest before, and the Mexican lager, I have changed the ABV to lower it. So I'm now thinking this was a bloody mad idea, sending you guys these for a live tasting, but here we are. So up until recently, I've not really brewed any specific styles to say that it's my go-to beer. I've literally brewed anything and everything. Lots of IPAs, 80s, 70s, 60 shilling.
Shillings.
Yeah, you
shillings,
don't see a lot of 60
Scottish.
shillings these days. Best bitters, English bitters, lagers, pilsners, pale ales, stouts. No NEPAs actually. But I love watching YouTube brewing videos. I like Martin Keen's 100 Beers in 100 Weeks. I know it's a bit Marmite. I like Brewlosophy both on YouTube and the original podcast. I enjoy looking at recipes and books and Brewfather. And I just tend to try different things. But recently, you mentioned I've taken a little bit of a step into semi-pro brewing. I need to get a set of core beers that I can churn out at a price point, that I can keep consistent with no crazy hard to get hops or expensive liquid yeasts or just and things that just sort of churn out things that are good sessionable, accessible beers.
Mhm.
Yeah, home brewers
Which
like
is
us
what-
are.
Which is what this first one is. Is everyone opened it yet?
Is that the Mex?
Yeah, the Mexican.
So I'll go on to say a bit about the Mex. So as I said earlier, I don't really have a go-to style, but I've always liked a Corona or a Sol. I like Mexican lager, so I've brewed a few of that recipe. But the difference with this one is I wanted to do a bit of a brewlosophy experiment with it and brew it at a lower ABV, kind of jumping on that bandwagon of the lower ABV popularity. And the fact is, as a nano brewery at 3.4%, I get small brewers relief, which means I pay no duty on that ABV.
Oh right.
But the usual recipe, I mean the recipe that was made with, but the usual ABV percent of it is a solid beer, usually around 5. I've had it up as high as 5.5%, a bit stronger than the average Mexican lager. However, it drinks really well at that percent. And the other thing about brewing the way I brew a Mexican lager is I'm a dry yeast guy. And there's not a lot of yeast choices for a true Mexican lager. Home brews like WLP 940, and for a 20-litre batch, it's like 14 quid for the packet of liquid yeast. So that's mental. So I try and use dry yeast 99.9% of the time. So it limits the choice. So there is only two that I can think of, dry lager, Mexican lager yeast, and that's Cellar Signs Baja and AB Thermal Lager Crisp, which a fellow brewer has told me they actually might be the same yeast. They are a Mexican strain, but this one's with using the AEB Thermal Lager Crisp. So rather than making the standard recipe and then, topping the fermenter up and bringing the ABV down that way, I wanted to go in and brew it using, less malt, less hops, hit the 10, 34 or whatever it was. I can't remember. And it's come out a bit confused. I think is the only way to describe it.
What's the obvious differences then? Because it sounds like it's not come out just like a weaker version of what the original was.
Yeah, because it's a mix. Well, first of all, you don't really see any low ABV Mexican lagers out there. That may be a hint of I shouldn't have bothered trying this. But having a good proportion of the grist being corn, it's lacking the malt that gives it the body that can maybe take it to a little bit lower ABV. So it's a bit wishy-washy. Yeah. And I think the yeast as well, the yeast, because it's a mixed yeast, and it's created for a particular ABV.
Because it's like a weak corn flavor that kind of dominates.
I guess your typical Mexican lager is pretty much 5%ish, isn't it?
Yeah,
doesn't go that much lower than that, but they're very light. But that's maybe more with the adjuncts, isn't it? So I mean, it's super clean, and
Yeah.
a very clean, light tasting lager. But
did it
I
explode
know
on
where
you,
you're coming
Chuck?
from with the it fizzed out the can a little bit. I had to do a little bit to catch the
I had to
catch the top off of it.
I had to go off camera because I
Maybe Owens was a little bit more lively than mine.
It was
Shut your
very
mouth.
lively, and unfortunately, my keyboard took a fair bit of abuse.
Man down.
Yeah,
You were
sorry.
warned.
I was warned, and I didn't heed that warning. But it was definitely lively.
I cracked it and it just went woof straight out all over the desk. That's
Yeah.
why I had to go and get the what do you call it, the mat? But yeah, but
It's definitely like an interesting colour to it as well. Like, not sure if it's going to show up on camera. It's really like lovely and clear, but it's very, very light in colour.
Yeah.
Mine's just not.
And it's literally just got Motueka in it, and I
Is
think
that what it is, right?
yeah, and I think what I think the difference is with the lower ABV. Sometimes you get a really kind of sort of lemony lime nose on it, much more pronounced than the higher ABV version. And I think that, even just using, the old stick it into Brewfather and the linear calculations that it does, I think this is a good one, that it shows that you can't rely on that linearity, is that a word, to make the same beer with a lower ABV, because it just knocks that balance out a little bit. And I think it'd take a few brews just to tweak it a little bit. But anyway, it was literally a brewlosophy type experiment just to see what it was like. My wife absolutely loves it. Drinks it like juice.
Like water.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, like, as you've sort of first stab at that experiment, I would say you haven't missed the mark. I think that's a very drinkable beer.
Yeah.
We had a similar kind of discovery where we drank but in the opposite direction, when we were drinking that Daya beer, the imperial version of Hokum Stomp, which kind of felt a bit like all they did was just double the ingredients.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't make for, in my opinion, a particularly great beer.
No.
It kind of lost its essence of what Hokum Stomp was.
Had we not had another stout at the same time or something like that? And
We were having Liam's stout next to
Liam's
it,
stout,
weren't we?
yeah.
And Liam's
Which
stout
was-
was
Or his porter
It was
even.
a porter.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a porter, and it had the Bramlin Cross, and it was like all the berries and stuff we were getting, and then we went to that, and it was just like nope.
Ron, I apologise for being a bit quiet today. However, I've just tried this Mexican lager, and I really like it. I really, really like it. It's one of those beers where I can see exactly where your wife's coming from. This is just completely smashable.
Oh, it's
And the carbonation's on point. Okay, that is,
Yeah.
and I've got to say, for when you're making a lager, most people go a little bit too low on carbonation for me, but this is bang on, and it reminds me of Corona, just a lighter version of Corona. Got that lovely citrus note coming through. I'm catching the corn, which I don't mind. It's good.
Yeah.
But no, mate, I really like that one. All I would say is, what temperature did you mash at?
I think, to be fair, my mash pH was too high on this.
What temp did you
but
mash at, though?
I think it was 65 for an hour, then 75 for 10 minutes.
Right. I would remake this exactly as you have, leave the pH exactly where it is,
Yep.
but mash at 69.
Right, yeah.
just to bring the body, but you would need
You don't need much more. You just need a little bit more body. 69 will probably give you that, and I think that's bang on, mate. I'd drink gallons of that shit. That's nice.
But then, Chris, so you would need. I think you'd need more malt. Wouldn't you?
You need some
yeah.
hot weather and a lawnmower, I think, with this
Yep.
beer. That's what you need.
Mate, it is banging lawnmower beer. That's what exactly what this is.
100% lawnmower beer.
You need a bigger glass as well. My opinion.
Mate, I can't
you
fault
need
that.
pint-sized cans next time, Ron, please.
Yeah, 330s aren't cutting it, buddy.
Yeah, I'll get it up to the 500s.
Yeah. That's nice. That I like that a lot.
The 20 ounce cans.
Yeah, man.
I'll just top my glass up with another one since it's only 3.4.
Yeah,
I'm just going to order a pizza. You guys carry on.
and I guess you've got this on tap as well, have you, Ron? I've interest.
Yep.
In terms of canning, do you tend to like can all your beers, or do you just can when you're like sending beers to places?
So just now I can all of my beers because I am literally supplying one restaurant and one shop just now. But it's BRX next week. There's a few suppliers that I want to speak to. There's actually a manufacturer called Thielman, I think it is now. They do what they call a starter keg. Now, for a nano brewery, I'm 100-liter nano brewery. For a nano brewery my size, when it comes to doing kegs for pubs, you either get the kegs with the inserts, and then you're paying like £7 extra for the insert that you have to buy a new insert every time, or you can get yourself some kegs, but then you're into the realms of having to wash a keg, opening that size, and I don't have a keg washer, so it'll be in with the old jet wash and all that. But the Thielman have brought out a keg which is literally a corny keg, but it's got a Sankey pub connection on the top of it. So after you collect it, you can just pop it like you would a corny keg and just clean it like you would a corny keg, and you can actually get your arm down it to give it a good scrub if it's really manky. So it's quite interesting. Because I do want to supply a few kegs. There's actually a new brewery with a tap room opening up nearby, and the brewer said he wants to reach out to all of the local brewers and offer them tap and shelf, which will be amazing. And then I do want to do cask as well to the local pub. I've done cask for myself. I've got a beer engine and a couple of casks, but
nice.
I do want to supply a proper cask ale to the local pub as well. So, but yeah, the journey going semi-pro, if you want it to call it like that, is I'm literally in no rush. I've got like everybody else, I've got a full-time job as well. So you saw how much work Liam at Sunbear has to put in just to do what he's doing at the size he is. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he doesn't even.
Are you brewing to a schedule run, or are you just kind of producing what you'd normally produce as a home brewer and then just kind of selling the excess?
So I probably brew twice a month, about 80 liters, 80 liters max per brew as well.
Yeah.
But as I say, I'm just kind of honing in on some recipes. So the recipes that I'm churning out just now will probably, eventually even out onto one that I'm happy with. But the other two beers that you got may be part of the range as well. So you can let me know.
Yeah. Well, I think the Mexican lager is very drinkable.
That's disappearing pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to try your standard version. Did you say it was 5.5%?
The one that I've got in the fermenter just now is going to be 5.5.
Yeah. Nice.
So what as far as the canning goes, what system are you using to do the canning, Ron? And what sort of cost are we looking at if people are thinking about getting into canning as an entry point for that?
So I think how much was it now? It might have been about $1,000 from the malt miller, and that was the geo filler, and the one with the two cans, and also the malt miller's fully automatic single can seamer, which I've got to say is the absolute biz. It is brilliant compared to the
Cannula.
yeah, the cannular, because the cannular spins the can and makes a hell of a mess.
Yeah.
Whereas the malt miller one the top spins, so the can just stays where it is and literally just lifts up, seal down. So there's so much less mess.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So you have
Yeah,
the
but-
can. So you've having the can pretty much fill two, can each one individually, but it's automated, so it's kind of like
Yeah, kind of.
relatively quick.
So you can go on to my Instagram, Doghead Brewing, and I've got a little video of. So I've got the cans in a trug with Star San. Take them out, shake the foam off in the duo filler, press the button, wait till that gets halfway, second can out in the duo filler, start that one. By that time, the first can's finished, cap on the foam into the the can seamer down, get the next can going. By that time, the other one's finished. So you get into a bit of a production line with it, and it doesn't take that long to can an entire bunch. And then once I've canned all of them, I then just stick them back into the Star San one by one, just to get any residue of beer off, and then just leave them in the brewery for 24 hours before I even think about putting any labels on them, because
Let
that's
them dry up.
yeah.
Oh, nice. Do you have a cold store, like a big fridge, keep them all in, or what?
I don't, but generally the brewery is never freezing, but it's cool, and it never gets too hot because it's in my
Scotland.
barn and it's in Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah. There's probably only 1 month you have to worry about it being any more than 5 degrees. Oh, that sounds great. And you, I recall, like a number of years ago, you kind of really investing in your brewery, weren't you? Would you just talk to us a bit about what your journey was on that?
Well, I'll go right through the journey. I was searching on Google today, trying to actually find the first kit that I was probably, like everybody else, given as a birthday or Christmas present or something, and it was quite literally a brew in the box, one of those 10-liter kind of wine bladder things. That you and it came with a can of liquid malt and a little hop tea bag and a little yeast, and you boiled up the malt extract with the little hop bag in it, and then once it was cooled, you actually poured it into the bladder that it has a little tap on it, like you would serve wine, but you fermented it on its side, so the tap was at the top, and you had this little tube that came out for the tap into this cup of water as you airlock. And a few days after fermentation was just to the tail end, you kind of closed the tap and flipped the bag, and it sort of carved it a little bit to almost cask level. I remember reading I remember there was an instruction on it saying, if the bag became like a ball, then you need to let some CO2 out. But you could drink it straight from that, or you could stick it in some bottles. And so I went for that and got myself, the brewer's favourite Cooper's PET bottles, and did the secondary and that. And I can't remember what style it was. It was beer, but surprisingly, and unlike a lot of first forays into homebrewing, it was actually reasonably drinkable, and it kind of got me. No, and it got me hooked. I thought, this is this is ace who can, make beer. And, at that point I started, reading everything about it. I looked it out as well. I got the Bible, the Papazian, the joy of homebrewing, and really kind of followed Charlie Papazian's style of homebrewing in the Carboys. And again, I mentioned it to you guys the other day, but I looked it out. So the Carboy is like a plastic PET.
Oh, you've got it.
And that is
There it is.
my original brewing
Dude,
fermenting vessel.
That goes in a water fountain.
I know,
Don't
it
even try and
literally
blag
is.
us.
It literally is, but it was called the better bottle. Brewed extract for years using using that.
You have to just start, you know.
I think it was about 16 years ago, at least 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Cool. So I added a heat belt to it, and then eventually got a Gumtree. I think it was a 12-liter Burco tea urn that I used as my kind of hot boiler. And I think all of my ingredients came from, it was like Brew UK was the big online go-to homebrew shop back then. And then I started using the forums, like the homebrew forum, to ask 10,000 questions. Again, 16 years ago, so it was a bit less.
Pre-Facebook?
Aye, and also it was
groups.
It was a bit less totalitarian as well, that it seems to be these days. But yeah, I learned a lot from that. So I moved on from the liquid malt extract and mostly used dry malt extract. I think did anyone remember the Way to Amarillo was one of the Brew UK extract recipes, which
great song too.
And then I kind of using the same Burco tea urn, I then invested in one of those nylon bags and then started doing all grain within that, learning a lot, like don't let the nylon bag come into contact with exposed elements in the Burco, because then you've got like a big bloody mess on your hands. Yeah, burnt nylon all over your
This is a
brewing
good tip.
vessel.
You guys done that?
I've never done that. No,
I haven't.
I've never
come
made
close.
that mistake. We appear to be having a slight miscommunication when it comes to what beer we're drinking next year, don't we, Tricky?
Oh, did I read the order wrong?
I believe you may
order.
have read the notes completely wrong. Yes, I thought we were going hazy
Don't.
next.
Well,
Like I said, I was several beers deep, so I can't read, basically.
Stout can just warm up, can't it?
Yeah, to be fair, that will benefit from sitting on the side for
I
a bit.
think it will be
and just
optimal by the time
coming up to
Okay.
temperature. Let's drink the hazy next, shall we?
Let's get that hazy in a glass because my pizza's going to be here in about 35 minutes.
Well, I do not know how this is going to open either, because I've not had one myself. So
It's
I'm
not
gonna be
exploded.
a little more careful on the opening of the hazy.
I'll
so
quickly get rid of this.
So Ron,
I'm sure you're a talented man when it comes to smashing the beers back.
Darn it. So Ron, you got as far as telling us about I think melting your brew in the bag onto your Burco element.
Yep. So I leveled up by putting an old colander with the handle snapped off upside down over the element to stop that from happening again.
Nice. Ingenuity.
So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Anyway, it was.
Ooh, I don't hate that.
Is it?
Hold on, have you opened the stout as well?
Does that look like a stout?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it did look quite dark.
It does look dark.
No.
It's a touch oxidized.
Yeah.
Still smelling
No.
good though.
No, it smells great.
So
To be fair, it looks colour-wise not great,
Yeah.
but the aroma and the flavour on it doesn't really taste
I can't taste no cardboard.
that oxidized to me, really.
No.
Yeah, actually, it's,
Oh, it's definitely oxidized.
yeah.
I mean,
Right,
Andy's one looks maybe like it's gone a little bit further.
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
To be fair, it's dark in there. There you go.
How does it taste and smell though? Because the aroma was great on this one.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
Andy's skeptical. What are you saying?
Definitely getting the jammy fruits at the
Getting a
end.
bit of jam.
Yeah.
Mine's smelling good. I've not tasted it yet, but
No,
These
the aroma's really good on this. To be fair.
yeah, very nice. And is
Nothing
this
wrong
the
with the nose.
is this the we'll come back to your journey in a minute,
Yeah,
Ron,
yeah.
because I think we're all getting excited about the hazy IPA. Is this the first time you've used Verdant? Or you used
This is the first
Verdant
time I've
yeast?
used Verdant. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was just trying to find the recipe for this one.
And this is a beer you've made once
Uh,
or
since-
twice or a few times
no,
before?
this is I've never made this beer before. This is the first bash at it. So this is Centennial and Mosaic. So again, going back to the if I'm going to use this at all as a a beer for the range, I didn't want to go mental with hops because you as a small brewer, if your brews are costing a fortune, trying to then sell them at any profit whatsoever, you can't be using 5-6 hops in a beer. So I was like, I'll use a couple of them, and then the Verdant yeast. Actually, I did mine seems to be not too bad. But it's potentially because I don't have a, what do you call those things that let the hops in without opening your fermenter?
You sure
hop
would it
bomb.
not have been?
A hop
Hop
bomb.
bong. I don't have a hop
Do you think it's
bong.
not more possibly
yes,
through the
and-
packaging process?
I
So
think
the
it's more
pack-
likely through canning.
Which
So-
takes us to a question from Ian about that. I assume he's talking about the canning kit there.
Yeah,
What are you doing as far as purging and whatnot?
Well, this one here. So, actually, this was another first. So this was the SS Brewtech Brewmaster Edition. You've got the same fermenter, don't you?
Yeah, I've got
Andy.
the Chronicle one. Yeah.
Yeah, the Chronicle. So from AliExpress, I got a 3-inch tri-clamp replacement lid for it, and one with the gas in, and one with the liquid out, with the floating dip tube
Oh, cool.
in it. So it came. I CO2'd and transferred it into the corny, and corny's like it's usually six blasts of CO2 to purge that, and then on the so it's carved up in there, and then in the geofiller, that is, I think it gives it a 6-second purge before it then fills up, and then capped on foam. So if it is and oxidized, then God knows how I'm gonna.
Because how
Yeah.
how did you pour yours on? Was it from the keg or can?
No, that was straight out of can as well. And
Do you have the keg anywhere near you?
No, it's in the brewery.
Because
That's a shame.
I would check the keg and see
Uh-huh.
the difference in color, because then
Yeah.
that'll tell you if it's if it's the the process of fermenting and all that, or if it's actually just the canning process.
Yeah.
Is that the first style you've done then? That's actually that's showing up with the oxygen then?
It's first. It's literally what I never make hazy beers.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I, as a brewer, I've always been looking for that absolute clarity in a beer, and this is the only beer in a long time actually that is not and I can't call them gluten free, but I use the
Clarify.
dehaze to take out the gluten as well, and I didn't put it in that because you end up kind of clearing your haze that you want to actually
don't
keep in.
I did
but-
one recently, and it's still hazy.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was listening to Brewlosophy the other day, and they were talking about putting the Chris, you'll know this. What's the chemical that's vitamin C?
Ascorbic acid.
Ascorbic acid in your mash, which almost acts as
Low dope.
kind of.
Yeah. What do you call it?
It reduces the oxygen within your mash. So it reduces.
It scavenges the
An
oxygen,
antioxidant,
isn't it?
yeah.
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 I've heard people put it in the fermenter and stuff as well.
Aye.
Yeah, it's a strange old chemical though. But yeah, no, I've heard people doing that, putting it in the mash as well as in the fermenter and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're talking about sort of one gram per 4 or 5 liters or something like that. So it's not a
Yeah,
massive
it's a
amount.
tiny amount.
Mhm.
It's definitely a tiny amount.
So yeah, I might try that next batch. See if it makes any difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Andy made a really good point though in terms of is it from transfer or is it packaging, and that would be a useful thing to
Yeah.
identify. I think generally speaking, like since I've moved to, and I kind of learned this from some of these guys on the podcast, purging kegs by filling it right up with Star San and then pushing all of the Star San out with CO2, and then that
Aye.
it's completely CO2.
That
That's
is
like
the
blasts.
only way.
Yeah, because that sick blast probably won't actually save you, because the amount of times I've actually transferred from one keg into another, because when I go to friends' houses, I don't want to use the original keg I've kegged into. I actually transfer into a fresh one, so I'm not pulling all the yeast and all the crud. As soon as I put that in the car, shakes up. But what I find is I did have issues with the beers getting, going brown or whatever. Like, because what was happening was I was doing the blasting method, and when you fill a keg with fresh beer all the way up to the top, then you can get rid of the oxygen. But when it's like maybe a keg that's 3/4 full or half full, the chances actually ends up oxidized.
Yep.
So the only way I do it now is the way the boys were talking about, is you fill the keg entirely with Star San, and then that way what I do then is when I want to Star San a keg, I just transfer that Star San into the next keg that's sitting waiting. And then, so that Star San's always just getting moved between the kegs, but then when you're transferring it on the CO2, basically it purges the entire thing, and you don't have issues.
You guys are well aware of my battle against the cheese plant in the back of my garden. Can I just say that 19 litres of 1% Star San does not kill a cheese plant?
That cheese plant is pretty durable.
You've got to try harder.
It's seen some action out there, hasn't it?
It's had lots of things thrown on it, and it's not dead yet. So that cheese plant's probably going to take over the world, I'll be honest.
Cockroaches and cheese plant. That's what's going to be
what
left
it is.
after
That's
the
what it
nuclear apocalypse.
It's cheese plant.
It's a very simple theory, and that is total volumetric sort of displacement. That's the only way to completely rid a keg of oxygen. You can't use scavengers. You can't use, your six purges is not going to do the job there, Ron. So, but if you've got like 2 kegs clean, 2 kegs, whatever, just transfer from one to the other, completely purge it with CO2, and I mean, you are absolutely fine at that point.
Yeah.
You literally have a vessel full of CO2, and I think that will rid you of this issue. But having said that,
as well, though,
please remake this exactly as it is, right? Because one thing I will say about this beer is it's not massively in your face with hops, but the flavour that I'm getting off of this, you're getting that jammy ending, but it's
you can tell.
it's a really,
combo,
really
actually.
nice flavour, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the Centennial and the Mosaic work really well together, and it's the body's there, everything's
I'm not
there.
getting the
It's
pine.
just... Yeah, thank God for that, though, eh?
I know. I made an IPA with blooming Hunters of Centennial, and we had it last night actually. with a curry. It only goes with a curry because that Centennial balances out with the absolute, the fire.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was
It's
just
an interesting
way
combo.
too
Like,
much.
what pushed you towards the hop pairing, Rum?
I read it somewhere. Simple as that. I've said before, I am absolutely the Chinese car maker of brewing world. I don't invent anything myself. I just try to see what everybody else is doing and try that out. And it was, it'll be on a YouTube video somewhere, no doubt, that I've watched and went, right, I'll do that.
Yeah. Wow, I mean, I think it's like an interesting choice combining Centennial and Mosaic. You don't tend to
Yeah.
see Centennial featuring that many hazy beers these days. But I think it's a really interesting combo. The aroma's like super interesting. It's
Yeah, it's nice.
really pleasant. You kind of get this like kind of strawberry chewits vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Sweet chewits, sweet strawberry. It's lovely. I'm really enjoying it.
Did you watch?
That's why it's nearly gone.
Did you watch the craft beer channel the other day when he was speaking to Charles Farham
Yes.
about the new hops coming out, and he said that one smelled like Iron Brew chews.
No way.
Very specific.
Know nothing about those hops. I ain't got a clue what he's on about.
That'll be popular in Scotland.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah,
they're meant to taste. They're meant to be really American, aren't they?
I don't know. I know nothing about them.
Who could say?
Yeah, and I think I haven't
Rumour
watched
has
that
it,
episode,
Andy.
but I ought to go and have have interest. Were they actually brewing with them, or were they just rubbing them?
They were just rubbing them.
Just rubbing them. Yeah.
But then
Yep.
they did brew with them later, didn't they? There was because they'd used
Oh, yeah, that's
four
right, yeah.
hops later on, and then it was like. It was basically like an American beer. It was like there's no way you would tell that any of that's from the UK.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because I do think like whilst rubbing hops gives you a certain impression of what the hop might present.
So many more
It's
factors
not
to it
until
than that.
it's not until you actually brew with it that you really know what it's going to
This
bring to the
brewing
table.
science.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know. So. who
I've certainly
knows?
had hops that out of the bag have been like, "Whoa, this is going to be amazing," and then you
Yeah.
put it in the beer and Pacific Sunrise. I'm looking at you. It's just
They
like,
taste
Yeah.
like a
What
shed
is that?
floor.
Yeah,
or just
that's it.
nothing, just didn't do anything.
I've got 100 grams
heard
of that
that's-
in the freezer.
I heard that's Ian Benfell's favourite.
Yeah,
hop.
apparently he really likes it and he wants everyone to send him more.
I'm not being funny. He's from Barnsley, and they're weird over there.
I was using that for just literally just a bitter and hop, but the flavour of it was coming through with it as well. So I chucked it. I don't like it either.
So it's not
tell-
good for bittering either. Oh, dear.
I'll tell you another.
It's not
hop
looking
that
good for
works like
Pacific
that.
Sunrise at the minute.
There's another hop that works a bit like that, and it's called Southern Cross. And I know a lot of you
I've
have
heard that.
tried Southern Cross and used Southern Cross, and it's a great bittering hop. But I always find whenever I use it, there's a very distinct, and it's very pleasant. It's not unpleasant in any way, but it always carries a certain flavour over into the beer that sits in the background. And I mean, I like hops like that, especially if it's a pleasant flavour. I'm not such a fan of Simcoe as a bittering hop. Andy, I'm looking at you. But, you know, there is definitely something from Southern Cross that carries over. So, yeah. Give Southern
Especially-
Cross a try, guys. Give it some time. It's a lovely hop.
Especially when we were doing that, the super rare Charles Farham hop
Yeah,
tester.
the one that just didn't really exist anymore because we had all of it. Yeah.
But then it was like, why is Andy's beer so different to everyone else's? Oh yeah, because he used Simcoe as a bittering. Oh,
Oh,
well.
Andy. Oh, you live and learn, don't
I
you?
know you do.
Yeah.
So we've got a
I-
question from a long-term follower, Brewcamp Brewery.
Brooksy.
Are you going pro, Ron?
I would not say that. I would say semi-pro, because it was. So yeah, we were talking. It kind of leads on. We were talking about my brewing, and we got to the stage of kind of doing all grain in the Burco in the sort of
Yeah.
nylon bag. But at that point that's when me and the wife started to look around for this crazy house move that we were doing, and so we eventually moved out of a lovely a suburban town, with facilities, to basically the middle of nowhere. So at that point, brewing took a little bit of a hiatus, because this was part of us planning our midlife crisis. Basically, we had this kind of good life ambition to, and we still have it, to retire kind of when we're 55, and have stuff to top up the pension and keep ourselves kind of busy. So the move to the smallhold always had this uncompromisable necessity of having a brewing space. And I will answer the previous question, but I'll lead into it. Was the question that you asked previously, Owen, which I'm only starting to answer just now. The building of the brewery just now. So I think it was about 4 years ago. So we've got a decent size barn, but the barn had a power supply, but nothing you could actually call a power supply, really. It was like an extension cable. It had an old water supply, but it was from a borehole, and not the mains. So basically, the barn needed proper electricity, proper water, proper drainage. So I had to hire a mini digger and dug a 150-meter trench from basically outside of our house, all down the driveway, all down the field, all into down into the barn. Now, it wasn't just for the brewery. We were also putting solar on top of the barn and battery storage, and making that a sort of distribution for the house. And also we built a holiday let behind the barn, which it was like a log house kit thing. So there was a lot of work needed for that as well. But yeah, the trench was, of course, at the time of year when, the minute that we had dug the trench, it started pissing with the rain. So it was basically like a 150-meter mud swimming pool.
It was a moat.
Yeah. And it was like, I had to, because of the length of the run, I think it was like 30 mil armored power cable that had to go down, and water pipe and drainage pipe with distribution boards. And then power came back out of there to the garage and to the holiday let and to the man cave where I'm sitting in just now. And then, because we're clay soil as well, when we came to putting a septic tank in, SEPA were like, no, you can't do that, because we had to dig like 3-meter cube holes, fill them up with water, and time how long it took to drain. And they never drained away. They got like 700 mil down, and then that was it. So we had to put in a domestic sewage treatment plant, which is like about 5 times the price of a septic tank. So I'm going to say it wasn't all for the brewery, but then the brewery part of the barn, which was it's maybe about a quarter of the barn. I did all the framing and plasterboard and more electrical work and plumbing work. So I did a lot of it myself. But the question on everybody's lips, I'm going to say, don't even ask. Because I don't know how much
I do believe you told us at one point after the
I'm not sure I want to know, to be honest, Ron, after hearing that.
And wasn't it 2 lottery wins and a massive inheritance?
So Yeah, but it was all because literally I knew I wanted to become at some point HMRC registered and have this as a little sort of part-time microbrewery. And starting it just now, and I'll let you guess how many years I've got till I'm 55. Starting it now, it means I can
20.
literally just. It means I can literally just build it up slowly. I'm putting myself under no pressure to do this. Just practice doing, getting shit like this right, and then by the time I start doing it full time, I can just enjoy it really.
Question for you, Ron. If you're doing a holiday let, how close to the beach are you?
Probably about 4 miles.
Okay. And is it a nice holiday let?
Yeah, Chris is wanting to go for a holiday.
I'm also thinking, mate, if we were
Do you do special discounts for podcasters?
Yeah, and if we were to turn up and maybe stay in this holiday let, how close is it to the beer taps?
It's
the key
probably
question.
about at least a 25-meter walk.
Oh my God. Well, I'd be requiring extension taps at that point.
And
I think that might be a crawl.
And literally today, I have just finished putting. So I put a hole through from the brewery into the other side of the barn, and put Nuka taps on it with like the chalkboard and stuff. So it's
Nice.
it's just a private space because I can't.
I'll
open in a pub or anything.
I'll be in touch, mate. I'll be in touch.
But no, if you boys wanted to come up and do a remote podcast all together, and then a collab brew
and get pissed.
Well, that could be fun. How close are you to St Andrews, Ron?
9 miles.
9 miles.
Owen's getting his important bit in.
Owen's like old course booked.
Old course, yeah.
Well, actually, we're closer to Dumbarnie Links, which is a new course that's been built. It's one of these ones that is a new course, but everybody's saying it plays like an old course. So, yeah, we're right in the Gulf.
Oh, the
Brilliant.
sound.
Oh man,
Sounds awful.
Sounds awesome.
Sounds awful, Ron.
So what
amazing.
was the question? Oh, the question was, am I going pro? So I'm not going to say I'm going pro. I will go semi-pro, but it's literally not. If it pays for itself and a little bit more, then it's exactly what I'm after.
So it's kind of a fun side hustle /
Brew and Build.
Post retirement.
I
Dave
don't know
Smith.
who Brew and Build is, but clearly he doesn't know anything about Scottish water.
Yeah, he does because he lives further north than I do.
Well, in that case, he should know that brewing water in Scotland, Mains water and RO are basically the same thing.
Does the water get better up north or worse?
I don't think so.
What's the map of Scottish water quality like, Andy? Tell us about it. Or Ron.
But then once you go from the central belt and start moving up, then you might end up having like you're having to dig for your water. Or whatever, well water, and then you end up it's peated and it's all yellowy.
That's a good point, actually.
Coming out the tap and all that sort of thing, isn't it, Ron?
Yeah. So, but to answer Dave's question, it is tap water. I'm not using RO water. I do have my Murphy's water report somewhere. Dave, I'll send you my water report. We can do a comparison.
Is it still relatively soft then, Ron? Or
it is very,
yeah.
The rest of it you can live with, as long as the bicarb's low enough, you can live with the rest.
I think it's all mostly soft. It just depends on if it comes with added peat or not.
Hang on a sec.
I think I know what you're going to put up. Yeah, there we go.
Brett's gone. He had a bath in Glasgow hotel and it came like it'd been fake tan. Brett, I don't think that was the water. Not entirely sure that was the water, mate.
Got to stop bathing in fake tan.
He got glazed by something else, I think.
Mate. Yeah. For those who are interested,
That's high and blue, Brett.
oh dear. I knew these jokes would flow. For those of you who are interested, it's half time in the rugby, and I wouldn't want to be Scottish. So
I'll just
pumped.
No, not really.
no.
They should have. They
you had
were
to
nearly
try
leading.
disallowed, mate. You had to try disallowed.
Oh.
Yeah, to be fair, it was rightly disallowed. Right, come on, let's crack on with a few bits, because I want to know about this little brewing collective that you've got going with your mates, and specifically how it works.
We'll probably lead on to the brew that we did, to be honest. So, and I'm not really going to call it a brewing collective. It is literally a couple of mates.
We are, Ron. We are.
Right. It's a couple of my mates who are.
We'll call it a cartel then. It's a brewing
absolute-
cartel.
Absolute whiskey. I'm going to say aficionados.
Amazing.
They've got collections. So I've got some bottles of whiskey. They've definitely got what you would call collections. With lots of keepers and spreadsheets to kind of keep track of it all. Anyway, and the other person is a friend, Ian, who owns Beath Brewery. But anyway, one of my whiskey friends bought a cask from Lindores Abbey in Fife, near Newborough, and it just invested in a cask. I think it was the sort of 50-liter size cask, something about that size.
Yeah.
Anyway, 3 years later, the master brewer said, listen, this whiskey has been really active. The cask is really active. We need to get the whiskey out of the cask. It's whiskey now. It's been in there 3 years, but it's not going to get any better. We need to get it out. So I think, 50 litres, 750 ml bottles. So he got maybe about, 70 bottles out of it. But he got his cask. And so we're sitting...
What did he do with all the bottles of whiskey, Ron?
He basically has just kept them and is working his way through them.
Amazing.
So I got one. My other mate got a couple. We gave a bottle to Ian at Beath from where we're going with this. Anyway, he got the whiskey cask to take away with him, which if you shook around, you could still hear there was a little bit of whiskey in there. So in one drunken night, or the usual in a pub or something, we were thinking, why don't we put a stout in the whiskey barrel, because that would be awesome. Now I've got the whiskey. You've never seen whiskey like this before. It's literally like Cavonia. It is the darkest coloured whiskey.
That's fucking rum.
Yeah, you've ever seen, and the smell is literally. Oh, it's literally like prune juice, smooth as it's absolutely lovely. Anyway, we thought, why don't we put a stout in this cask? And this is where we get to Ian at Beath Brewery. Now, Ian had literally just won a SIBA award for an imperial stout, oak cask. He had literally won a SIBA award for this imperial stout. So we were like, Ian, come and join our brewing collective. Would you be able to help us and put your award-winning stout into this cask? So he did just that. Now it was 10 or 10.5%. So I've got the malt bill here. It's classic. So for what am I looking at here? So let me just get the malt bill up, because it's an absolute belter. So for a 55-litre batch, it was 19 kilos of pale malt, 1.3 kilos of cara, 1.3 kilos of roasted barley, 1.2 of caramel crystal 120, 800 grams of chocolate malt, and basically 400 grams of sugar, malt dextrin.
Yeah.
So the malt bill was like 24 kilos for a 55-litre batch. Bramlin Cross and Target as the hops. and Omega Lutra Kawike as the yeast. And it was quite literally like putting a Mento in a 2-litre bottle of Coke. Strapping the lid to the fermenter, as soon as we could. So that fermented
off.
away, and we literally stuck it in the cask. Now, if anybody is thinking of doing this, there's one major piece of information, and that is, don't put the cask on the ground and fill up the cask with the stout, because then you can't get it out of the cask unless you lift it higher up than what you want to then fill afterwards. So always remember to put it higher than the vessels you're then going to fill.
60 kilos of mass is just not fun to try and lift.
Well, it'd be more than that, because depending on final gravity, that's going to be a big old fucking beer, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you fucked up once.
Yeah. So whacked the stop in for that, and then we wrapped it in cling film just to try and keep it as airtight as possible, and then shut it in a dark brewery and left it there for now it was I say only it was 2 months. It was sat in the cask. And then after 2 months, we put the majority of it, literally just siphoned it into 2 corny kegs. And then the rest of it, we filled up the 5-litre mini kegs with a little bit of priming sugar in the 5-litre mini kegs. So the corny keg ones, we just force carbed, but the 5-litre mini keg ones just, they just self-carbonated. And honestly, when we were pouring that, it literally looked like baby Guinness. When we were pouring it out, it was, thick, dark black with this absolute, almost nitro head on the top. It was, and they even out of the cans, it was, an experiment that we'll probably never be able to recreate, and a beer that was...
It was so good.
Yeah, we all had that beer.
Yeah.
You sent it to all of us, so literally the 4 of us who were sitting here, and obviously you've had some of this. When we had that beer, the only thing I remember saying was,
"Fuck me."
Oh my God. It was one of those beers when you drank it, you were grateful for every single sip, because it was a sipper, it was not a gulper.
Yeah,
but it's such a great flavour. Loads of that like really calm, chilled wood flavour came out, and there was a lot of the whiskey vibes that came in. You got some raisin. I've got tasting notes for it. There was some raisin flavour that came out. There was quite a lot of berry that came out, but there was also this kind of interesting sweetness with loads and loads of body. It was such a great beer, man. That was an absolute... You need to do that again, Ron. Honestly, do that again.
I know, we need to track down a whiskey cask from somewhere.
Because, well, you live in Scotland, mate. It shouldn't be that hard.
You would think it wouldn't be that hard, but honestly, they're prized possessions at the distilleries. They don't give them up.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Such an awesome beer.
Plus, see, that was such a random size, only being 50 litres as well, because I think normally they can be quite big, the ones they use at the distilleries. Like, I don't know if it's like 120 litres or something, maybe. But they're big anyway. When I've looked at trying to get casks, whiskey casks anyway, I think, is it a quarter gills, like the smallest, or I don't know. They've got all sorts of random names, the sizes of them.
Yeah,
anyway, isn't it?
But yeah, the distilleries will tend to that. That's why most of the distilleries, used to have cooperages, because they will repair these
refire them.
Barrels, and char them, reuse them. And it's the American bourbon barrels. They're the ones that you only use once, and then that's why, the Scotch whisky industry gets so many of the bourbon barrels, because it's like used once, and we're not allowed to use them again and to make bourbon.
Yep, that's it. And then So it's good, probably good for their industry for chopping down trees and feeding that sort of thing. But yeah, because we tend to use like sherry and bourbon. Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, for making something of with a malt bill that size, there was a lot of chalk went into that because the mash was really quite acidic. So it
Is
was
that right?
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Chalk. Is it actual chalk? I suppose,
The-
Tricky, you would just use your own tap water, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that would balance it out easily. A piece of piss. No problems. I mean, no, yeah, chalk's gonna give you the carbonates to balance out the acids the same. But you can use bicarbonate or
Yeah.
Slaked lime is it? Is the other one?
yeah, anything with the carbonates in it will kind of do the same buffering effect, which is just recreating the hard as fuck water that some of us are blessed with. Yeah, straight out the tap. Lucky us.
MP water.
So yeah, it's definitely if you ever get the chance, absolutely do put an imperial stout in a whiskey barrel. But absolutely what not to do afterwards is then refill it with an IPA, because that doesn't work whatsoever. With remnants of whiskey and stout and an IPA going on top of that. That was quite a lot of drain pour.
Yeah, that must have hurt.
Yeah.
But
So what did that actually come out tasting like? Was it just that it had the carryover flavour from the stout, or was it just didn't work with the wood?
I remember enough to think, no, we're just going to have to pour this.
It was just a no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Straight down the drain. Yeah. Sometimes you've got to cut your losses, right, and just go, yeah, that one's not going to work out. There's only so much aging can cure.
Yeah, there wasn't even like maybe I'll leave that for a bit, see if it turns good. It was just a nope. Nope. That's going down the drain. I've just had a smell of this stout, and it smells
We'll get that poured.
Oh, yeah,
amazing. Is there lactose in this stout?
I don't think so. Let me just have a quick check. Let me have a quick check. There was definitely no, there's not. Sorry, getting mixed up. No, definitely not.
I notice you're quite a big fan of AEB as a
AEB.
Yeah, as a yeast provider.
Yes.
I'm not sure I've ever used AEB yeasts.
So I met them last year at BRX, and like everybody at BRX, you get lots and lots of samples to use. Now, I found the AEB yeast is pretty consistent and comes in at a really good price point. There's never any question about you pitch the yeast and you're going to get decent fermentation with it. So I just kind of have. I mean, every brewer's probably got their preferences, but I just kind of try to, if you stick to one brand, then you can sometimes get a,
I think this stuff is available from Get a Brewed, isn't it? AEB.
Yes.
I don't.
I
don't really see it anywhere else though. But
yeah, and you can buy it direct from AEB, but 500 grams is the
the pack size. Yeah.
Oh, so you're buying it 500 gram. Volume.
Yes. So I've got the.
So what is AY3? Is that a kind of?
So it's literally
standard ale yeast, or
I think it's exactly the same as the
SO4 or something.
SO4. There's a comparison somewhere, but I think it's the same as SO4.
Nice.
Yeah, but that's come out pretty good.
Yeah,
the aroma.
it's very nice. yeah, really good coffee note on the aroma.
It's more than that as well. I'd be interested to know what coffee you used, Ron. But there's just a beautiful sweetness that's coming from it, like a kind of caramel,
Yeah, did you say there wasn't any lactose
honey
or any
sweetness.
other?
No
Nothing.
lactose. No. So the malt bill on that one is. Actually, to be fair, I won't be able to exactly recreate this either, or maybe for one more brew because it's the last of my Pops Pale Ale
Oh no, yeah.
malt. I think I've got enough for one more brew. So
Yeah.
it's the
Because that would have
Pops.
been just down the road from you as well, and
It-
it's so cheap just to pick it up.
Yep. So it's Pops and wheat malt, roasted barley, and caramel. And that one, it's literally just Challenger as the hop, and
See,
a
see
bit
to
of
try and
coffee as well.
recreate pops, I would be like, maybe some sort of standard pale ale with Golden Promise. I think would be a kind of a mix.
Yeah, I was thinking Golden Promise actually.
Maybe like a
Yeah.
50-50 split.
Yeah, because pops isn't quite as sweet as Golden Promise, but it's definitely sweeter than just standard pale type thing. So I always found it was like a slightly toned down, but it was the blooming efficiency you used to get out of
I
it
know.
as well. It was just insane.
Yeah,
I think I've
It's
still
so
got some
good.
pops hanging around, actually. I think I've still got some of their, like, I can't remember what it was now.
Bear
It was
malt?
like their weird bear malt, the bear
Yeah,
malt.
that
Yeah,
was
I've
the
still
one.
got some of the bear malt around. Although I'm pretty sure it's
Was that their like heritage
Crushed.
rustic kind of
Yep.
variety, wasn't it? Yeah,
Six
yeah.
row or something. No, was that a 6 row?
Did you use any of that, Andy or Ron, or
No, I didn't.
have
I
you used it already, Owen, or you've just got some yet to use?
no, I have used it. I can't really remember what
Did you
I
get the
used
10
it
kilo sack?
Yeah.
in. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I think I might have made a bitter with it from memory. I'm not sure I noticed a huge difference,
Yeah.
if I'm honest. That said, I think it's one of those things you probably really want to try and just make a smash beer with or something.
Okay.
But thinking about it, I've had it for so long, and it being crushed, I'm not sure. It's probably fit for the bin, sadly. But
Well, so you're not going to get any more of it, so either use it or yeah, chuck it at this point.
yeah,
Sadly,
Pay.
yeah, stick it in an MP.
but the user up a bit of fucking everything in there and sweepings off the floor.
Oh,
Probably be the
fascinating.
best thing you've ever brewed.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah, I haven't done a
Can't
user upper
recreate
for a
it
long
ever
time.
again. Has anyone
brilliant.
ever actually had a user upper brew that has come out fantastic though? Because I mean, there's a bit of that
No.
myth of like it's going to be great and you'll never recreate it, but that's never been the case for me at all. It's just been like this is a horrible jumbled mess of
Why
like
did
it
it-
doesn't taste like I put everything into it and had no plan.
That's exactly how they come out.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was just checking, just checking it wasn't me.
I think I've only ever done one, and that was a long, long time ago. But I don't ever
Yeah,
get.
and
to
that
the
tells
point
its
where
own
I'm like,
story, doesn't it? It's like I didn't go back to that method.
So is there coffee in this, Ron?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
I literally got one of the sort of filter bags that I sometimes use for. I mean, I generally just chuck hops in the fermenter and a brew kettle these days, but sometimes I'll put them in one of the filter bags.
You
So
get
it's
from
literally
cross my lift type ones.
Timu, but
Timu, yeah.
but the same idea. And it was, what was that batch? That was maybe about did I do a 50-litre batch of that? And it had 50, yeah, I think it's a gram per litre of coffee just in the hop stand at the end, in the fermenter.
Right,
Yeah.
cool.
So 50 grams of just your ground coffee in that bag, and then chuck it in the hop stand, 80 degrees, and just
Nice.
build it a bit and left it.
Yeah, just steep
like a
it.
filter coffee
Yep.
type.
And it's nice, like it's well balanced. There's like a little bit of hint of a coffee there, but
A little hint.
it's I think it's accentuating the character of the grist melds nicely in there. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like out and out
coffee.
in your face coffee.
Oh, I get mega coffee.
Really.
Yeah. I get like loads of dark roasted coffee. But then you've left yours to warm up on. Mine's just came straight out of the fridge.
I also drink a lot of coffee.
I don't think.
so-
I don't think it's like aggressive coffee, but it does taste quite strongly of coffee to me as well.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm
that
I'm
kind
sitting
of
on the fence
espresso.
between those two opinions.
I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Very
No,
nice,
I
yeah,
think
nice.
it's
Okay.
well
It's
balanced.
a really
Yeah.
well executed beer. To be
lovely.
fair, I think it does
Yeah,
exactly
really
what it
nice.
says on the tin, mate. So
Most
yeah,
days.
Appreciate it.
good
It's
job.
Kind of nice to be drinking a beer of this style at this ABV as well, 5.1%, as opposed to most of the time a beer style like this is in excess of 8%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to have that slightly like drier finish, a little bit more accessible, a bit more drinkable.
Yeah, and
it's a really nice beer.
It's literally exactly what I was aiming at. I wanted it to be almost like a bit of a sessionable stout. Not quite sessionable, but one you could have 2 or 3 cans or whatever, and go, yeah, this is pretty good. But yeah, as he says, sometimes you're drinking these, 8, 9 upwards of impies, and then it's an absolute carnage afterwards. So
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Nice foam as well.
Love it. So,
Nice bit of
tell
crema.
us a bit about a bit more detail on the brewery, Ron. Tell us. We love a shiny story. Tell us
Yeah.
about your shiny.
He says you've got a bit of
Where did your kit
Brewtech.
come from?
So actually, just at the point of leaving suburbia and moving to the middle of nowhere, I actually upgraded and got my first all-in-one. It was the Hopcat 65. So I still have the Hopcat 65, and I sometimes use it for the smaller batches, but I most of the time just use it as my HLT. Now, but I got a Bruzilla 100 litre from, well, I've got to say, even though it's not a sponsor anymore, but I've got to say thanks to Johnny at Brewkeg Tap, because me and a few other nutters bugged him at BrewCon about would he get a few of the 100 litre systems in. So he honoured that promise and sorted a few of us out with them. And so unless it comes as a 3-phase system, but you can rewire it into a single-phase system. All the instructions are, well,
I thought you were about to say, Ron, I thought you were about to say then I had to get a new grid transformer in and get a 3-phase supply in.
I'm absolutely stuffed because there's literally only 2 phases come down, 2 wires come down our track. And one of them doesn't come towards my house. So, but I knew that you could rewire the 100 into a single phase. The instructions are online. Don't expect to get any instructions from Kegland. So I did that, and it goes into a 32 amp supply. It does involve drilling a bit of a hole in a new grommet, and if anybody else is looking to do this, do a big long cable. No, put a big long cable onto it, because I've got the whole thing sitting on a Vivor barrel dolly, so I can just wheel it about the brewery. So if I'm good at filling the fermenter, I can just wheel the whole thing over and pump into the fermenter. I can, if I'm washing it out, just wheel it towards the sink and do the rinsing. So it's a handy bit of kit. Anyway, I've got a 90 litre Brewbuilt conical X2 fermenter. So that's the one with the they've upgraded to the X3 because people complained that the X2 with a band. And there's been a couple of occasions that I have used it and the band doesn't completely seal properly. It seals, you still get a pressure ferment, but maybe not at 1 bar that you were aiming for. Maybe you'll get half a bar, and then if you put it up any more, then you'll hear it start to leak. So you'll still get a pressure ferment, but I've kind of got it down into a fine art now. A little bit of the food grade grease just around it on is absolutely fine, and it's better than, well, in my opinion, better than the X3 because it's so much easier to clean, because it's you can get right in there. But anyway, I'm happy with it. A half barrel SS Brewtech Brewmaster Edition. And that's the one I said earlier. I got the new bit from AliExpress with a
you say it's got the 3-inch tri-clamp at the top of that one. I think my Unitank's got that. Yeah, it does.
So I have pressure fermented in there as well at the 4 psi or whatever it's rated to, but it's still a pressure ferment, and it takes away having to use the bubbler, and it does a great pressure transfer with that as well. Ice Master G20 glycol chiller, and each of the fermenters have got the cone heater on them as well, so I've got full temperature control on them. And as I said before, the dual filler, and then the malt miller automatic can seamer. So I think that's the.
Does the G20 have the temperature control for the fermenters on it?
So the G20, so the Ice Master
temps.
So for the Ice Master, it comes with out of the box, able to control the cooling side, but not the heating. But it's effectively the, what do you call them? The 1000s. You can.
Oh, the STC.
STC.
Yeah, I thought you
it's
could
effectively
wire up the heaters into them.
You can, yes.
And is that what you've done?
I've not done that. What I've done is I've just got two Inkbirds doing the heating, and the temperature difference is literally 0.2, so they're perfectly in sync with each other, and I can get both the probes in the same temperature.
So you've not done a craft beer pie ferment?
No, I've not done anything with pie in the brewery, but I use Home Assistant for Raspberry Pi. So it does
in the house.
So it does control part of my brew because I've got solar and battery. I tend to try, and certainly over summer, I try and brew as much on solar and battery power as I can. And also I've got the Home Assistant set up to, because I usually brew at the weekend, so on early on Saturday morning it kicks in, and I've got a standard water cylinder heater in the brewery as well, so it switches the water heater on remotely for a couple of hours. And because also I'm on, we're only still on a 60 amp fuse in the house, and I've got all of this gear in the brewery, and we've got a holiday light, and we've got our own house all on this 60 amp supply. I use the warning on the Home Assistant to go, you're using too much power, consider switching something off. So it's use the Pi for that, but not the brewing system.
That's cool.
But I've got to say the 100-liter Brewzilla is a really good system, especially when you add the Bluetooth wrapped mash thermometer in it, because then you really realize how much of a difference in temperature. Because if you're using that all-in-one system with the temperature on the bottom, and it goes, you're doing a two-step mash, like the lager, 65 degrees for an hour and then 75 degrees. If you're only using that bottom thermometer and you ramp up to 75, you're there in like 5 minutes, and you're thinking, right, job done, 10 minutes, bosh, we're there. You put that wrapped thermometer in your mash, it's like, Jesus, it takes about 25 minutes to actually get the mash up to your temperature.
Mash bed, yeah, exactly.
Aye.
I've found the same thing actually with my Brew Tools B80. You can have some like really variant temperatures through the mash because it's such a huge volume. It's quite wide as well.
Mm-hmm.
Depends very much where the sensor is.
Yeah.
So I tend to not. Do you tend to stir quite a lot, Ron? Because I tend to try and avoid that if I can. But
I tend to try and avoid it, but to get a true pH reading and a true, your gravity measurement, it can vary wildly if you don't give it a good start. Even with the recirculation, it doesn't seem to mix it up enough to get those true readings at certain points.
is that kind of after you've sparged and all of that kind of thing,
Yeah.
as opposed to during the mash? Yeah.
Yeah.
I find the same thing actually. Like I tend to have to give mine a good stir before I take a pre-boil gravity reading or a post-boil gravity reading. Yeah, it's quirky, isn't it? But it's all about just kind of getting to know your system, isn't it?
Exactly.
I've done the same thing with you in terms of just getting a long temperature probe. It's not a wrapped one, but just a cheap one from Amazon, just to be able to kind of get a better sense of the temperature of the actual mash. And kind of weirdly, it tends to kind of, what I've discovered is it sort of varies from like quite a bit below target to a bit above target. So in theory, kind of my thinking is that it kind of averages out.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm not sure if there's a great deal of logic to that, but I think what I did notice was I had a lot of beers that were drying out a lot lower than I was expecting them to. And I think that's kind of an indication that perhaps the mash temperature was lower than what I was actually anticipating it to be. Is that an experience you've had?
To be honest, not noticeably, but it's only when you start to measure it, you start to think, going, my God, there's this big difference. So if I hadn't bought the temperature gauge, I would have carried on just as I was doing, beers tasting all right. But yeah, when you start measuring things like that, then you get it in your head as like, oh, I've got to, hit my numbers.
Yeah, and for me, it's kind of like if you end up dropping quite a few points below your target finishing gravity, you can end up having a beer that you were hoping to be 5.2% becomes 5.8%. And then you're like, it's not quite the sessionable beer I was hoping for. Yeah, shucks. So I've been trying to sort of battle that a little bit.
To be fair, that is something that you have to take into account, especially because the 100-litre one's really deep, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's not massively wide. So yeah, you're going to have to take into account. You're going to have to take into account the column volume of it. So.
Yeah. It is a lot bigger, massive mash in there.
Yeah. It's especially if you're throwing 29 kilos of grain in there.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a grain bill. It's going to take some percolation.
How much grist are you talking about for your typical 5% beer in your system run for 80 litres?
Let me just...
It's about 15 kilos, something like that?
Yeah, about there. I was just looking up some of the recipes. So, 15 kilos at a 55-litre sort of size. So apart from that MP, there's been nothing over 20.
No. At least you got the flex though in terms of size to be able to do big MPs without reiterated mashes and all that fun stuff.
But even with 15 kilos in it, it's still a heavy bugger. So me being a total Kegland fanboy, I've got the hoist as well to get the mash basket out. And then living in the country, then I take it straight across the road and feed it to 2 Highland cows as well.
Nice.
It's always nice when that one happens. You got a biological waste disposal unit.
I know, and see when you take the jump and call it going pro, but I'm not. I'm semi-pro. When you get your ticket, if you're going to feed the used grain to an animal, you've got to write a process for that.
SOPs everywhere, man. SOPs everywhere.
It's going to be like ChatGPT, write me an SOP for feeding used grain to animals. Thanks,
Yep.
done. Copy and paste.
The only thing that I will say is I was away for a little while, and I've
How was
only
your pizza?
The pizza was great. However, it wasn't the pizza that was the issue. It was the antibiotics that are the issue. So, I really like this.
It's good, isn't it?
Very nice. I'm liking
It's really good.
exactly as Owen said. The fact that it's a lower ABV, but it tastes like it does, is really, really nice. It's nice to get a beer like this at 5% rather than it being 14.
And you're not normally a fan of beers with coffee in, are you, Chris? Generally,
I'm not a huge coffee beer fan, but I do like coffee flavouring. I just don't think it matches too well with dark roasted malts for me personally. But I like this one. It's nice. I mean, it's going down.
Each to their own.
Yeah, no, it's a good
Yeah,
one.
it's gone for me. So yeah, very good.
Well, I
Trick is
mean,
it nailed it.
you did open it, 6 hours
had
ago.
a bit of a head
Tricky.
start, so might be my fault.
There you go. Is there any other questions in the chat that we have missed for Ron? We've had a bit of a spat about whether or not Guinness Zero is
Your
a good
view on
beer
Guinness
or
0-0, Ron. Last question.
To be fair, every Thursday I go to my local pub and have a Guinness Zero because I'm driving while waiting for my son, who is a young scout leader, doing his young scout leading thing, and I'll sit in the pub and have a Guinness Zero.
That's good.
Yeah, it's
I had it
perfectly
last
drinkable.
night for the first time, and
It's
I
fucking
actually
shite.
It's-
Let's call it what it is.
Mixed
It's
opinions
fucking
on this
shite.
one. I've not tried it, so I'm not going to say
So
I have an opinion.
At first, I thought that you could tell that it was missing the alcohol, but as I went on and it was warming up as well, it was like, no, this is really good.
No, it's not. It's crap.
I went to Belfast in early January, and I tried it side by side, Guinness Zero,
Yeah, it's not
and we did a blind test to see if and there was quite a few of us, to see if we could tell the difference,
serious.
and I got it wrong.
No way.
Yeah, I got it wrong.
Right, so the podcast is now down to 3 members, and
I would say next time we.
I have not done that test yet, so
To be fair, maybe it's the fact that it was being served in Ireland. You know, they do tend to be able to know how to serve Guinness in a better way.
No, but you should be able to the alcohol taste, and if you can't tell the alcohol taste, then that shows you how good they've nailed
I couldn't
that.
tell. And I do wonder if they add something else to kind of.
there you go. In can
Make
you
it
can
a
tell,
bit-
but draft it's very similar. I had it in can, and I could
I
tell
had it
with the
in
very
can.
first sip, and it was shite.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I had it on draft.
didn't have
but,
the extra leprechaun tears in it, did it, Chris? So
No,
Yeah,
there was nobody standing at the side of it going to be sure, so it just didn't taste the same.
But I thought it was actually very good on draft.
Yeah.
Christian Ibbotson was talking about his love for AB yeast, which I know he has used before. I think he's used some of their Kvike yeasts and London Ale 3. There was a question from Ian about whether you use the AB Mexican lager yeast in your Mexican lager yeast.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
It's the brew and build, Dave, that popped up a question earlier. So I've been swapping notes with Dave because he YouTubed a Mexican lager, and he always uses the WLP 960, but I can't remember the number now. And so I sent him some of the. So I told him about Cellar Science Baja and also the AEB. So he's been doing sort of side by sides, and he definitely says the WLP is a superior yeast for a Mexican lager. You can tell the difference with it, but the price point is mental. It's so far different with the AEB that
I'm guessing
how much is it for a
WLP is a
brick?
wet. Is it a wet pitch?
for the AEB Mexican, I think it was 60 quid for 500
That's good.
grams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, for a lager yeast especially. Yeah. Because
Which-
normally the lager ones are more.
Yeah, which even if you put a gram a liter, which is probably on the high side, you're using 80 grams of your 500 gram block for an 80 liter batch, or your homebrew price. That's 60 quid's worth of WLP.
Well, would you not grow it though? Would you?
Aye, and yeah, that is just something
But
I
then
just do not want to get
pain
into.
as well. Because what size would you need to do though, Chris? You'll know that, I suppose.
What?
What size pitch would you need to do?
For what?
For an 80 litre.
You would
lager.
need to do a
10?
quadruple step 3 litre, or you could do a 2 into a 3 into a 5, and that'd give you the right pitch rate.
That sounds like quite a bit of
That's a lot of work.
work, doesn't it?
You could just do the logical thing, Ron, which is brew a 23 litre batch, pitch the yeast in, don't put a dry hop in, siphon the beer off, pitch on the top, and Robert is your father's brother. Yeah.
That's probably the easier way, and you get a keg
I like
of beer.
that.
And
Yeah.
you get beer out of it.
Easy. We
So
do
there
have
you
to brew
go.
twice. Simon Seaton wanted to know what was the wood of the
It was an oak
whiskey
cask.
cask. It was an
Aye,
oak cask.
you did say that. Yeah.
Standard. Yeah. Amazing. I think that's probably all the questions that we had from the chat. So, unless you guys have got any more questions for Ron or anything else you wanted to talk about, Ron.
No, I think I'm talked out, ready for another beer.
Fire's out as well.
He spent.
And, well, to be fair, it's 27 degrees in the man cave now, so
No more heat.
Toasty.
So is that actually a sauna that you're in at the moment, Ron? With the,
Yeah.
guitar, so?
Sauna.
I'd advise not drinking beer in a sauna. It's not a good move.
Have you been there?
Cool. Right, guys, this is episode 112 in the bag. We are going to post a link in the chat to the after party.
Are we?
Ron,
Hang on. Give me a minute.
yeah, we definitely will be doing that in
Apparently we are,
a
yeah.
few minutes. Ron, I'm sure you're going to be up for hanging around in the after party for a few more
yeah,
beers,
definitely.
which would be great. Sweet. Guys,
Cool.
say adios.
See ya.
Adios.
Bye-bye. Cheers, Rod.
Love
Links
you,
in
Ron.
the chat. Thanks, Ron. It's been great.
Cheers.
Yeah. Nice wee night.
Bye.